This is First Thessalonians 5:3. It says, "For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction come upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape." I'm going to start off by giving all praises and glory and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakahakwadash. Double honors to my elders and apostles of GMS for teaching nothing but the 100% truth. Shalom. Shalom to you, very beautiful Akim that's believing in truth, pushing truth throughout the four winds, using your body as a living sacrifice. To you, I say, hey, Shalom. To you, Shalom to you, very few Akwath, which is sisters. Akim is brothers, Akwath is sisters for any newbies that follow the channel that's new. That's listening and learning quite as the scriptures say so. And shalom to your children as well. This is your brother Ahmad from out the GMS Lake City camp. First Thessalonians 5:3 again. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction come upon them as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. And that's what's getting ready to come, man. Now I titled this one just because Donald Trump, you know, uh, backed out, doesn't mean the Lord did. You know what I'm saying? Because the Lord, hey, matter of fact, let's get this right quick before I get into all this. Because even though Esau, which is a so-called white man, they're trying to control the narrative, but at the end of the day, the damage is already done. This is Psalm 55, verse 11. Wait a minute, hold on. Psalms, what is it? Hold on. Let me get this right quick. Hold on. What is it? Right. Okay. Isaiah 55 and verse 11. It says, so shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please, and it shall prosper in the thing whereunto I sent it. So the word of Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai, it's going to go out, and it's not going to come back void, man. Esau is trying to do his so-called best and trying to kick the can down the road, but at the end of the day, the damage has already been done. There's no healing Babylon. There's no going back to the so-called good times. There's no more lies that Esau have told that have not been uh, revealed. The secrets, the hidden stuff. The Lord has exposed this devil, man, which is the so-called white man. Even the Lord is allowing his own tongue through his own people, his own seed line to fall upon him, man. He can't hide his lies. He can't hide his wrongdoings. He can't lie. The Lord has got the so-called white man, right? So-called white woman, got him under the microscope, man. Watching. You got all of the nations watching the movements of the so-called white man. Esau is through. Esau rulership is through. Let's get this right quick, before we jump right into this video, Lord willing to be edifying. This is 2 Ezra 6 and 9. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that follow. So Esau is the end of the world, and what we're watching is the end of Esau, the end of the lies, the end of the delusions, the end of trying to hide who his identity, right? We're watching the curses come upon our enemy. We're watching a transition of power. We're watching this man be stripped out of power, because it tells you in Job 9 and 28 that the hand of the land was given to the hand of the wicked, roughly paraphrasing. And now we see, guess what? The wicked of the earth, which is the so-called white man, he's in a vulnerable place right now. He's vulnerable. He's naked. He's exposed. And he can't cover up. Victoria's Secrets can't even save him. And that was an inside joke for those, But anyway, this man, yesterday, he said that he was going to inaugurate take out the Iran, and then he didn't do it. And so then you got Americans here, thinking that they in good standards and no one is going to touch us. But like I said, as the scriptures say, when they say it's peace and safety, then shall it come upon them as a sudden destruction, man. Roughly paraphrasing, and it's going to happen because it's not lies, man. The Lord don't lie. The Lord is not a man that he can lie, man. You know, and the Lord, everything that Yahweh and Yahweh Shai have said, they're going to bring it to pass. You know, because believe it or not, this is bigger than what you're seeing on this TV. This is bigger than what you're seeing on your phone, man. The Lord is doing this for Yasharalah's sakes, man. You so-called blacks, Native Americans, Hispanics, Latinos, Haitians, Jamaicans, you speckled birds. When we say speckled birds, you that look like the heathen nations, the Chinese, the Philippines, the Chinese, the Japanese, the so-called Africans. Your seed line through your father goes back to the 12 tribes of Israel. We're talking to you, man. The Lord's word go out and don't come back void. And the Lord is serious about coming back, sending Yahweh Shai back for the hopeful elect, starting first and foremost with the 144,000, then the unnumbered multitude, which is you men, women, and children. As you see on the screen, this is a colonel. His name is Colonel Douglas McGuire. And it says most people have no idea how bad this is going to get. Now, we understand far as with the Hormuz being shut down, far as it's not shut down to other nations, it's only shut down to America and American allies that join hand with America. Everything else is still running for the other nations. Anything that's got America and America's idea, America's people that's helping America, they're not coming through the Hormuz. So you're about to see the effects real soon, real soon here, of what it looks like of a famine. You know, and Esau is trying his best, and then they're trying to throw everything on Iran. We understand that this man is not trying. This man is setting himself up to start the B system, which is the MOTB, which is the RFID chip. They want the RFID chip mandatory. That's the next prophecy that's coming, man. And it's looking more and more that we're here, man. It's already happening, man. They got the FEMA camps getting ready. They got the Neuralink, which is the RFID chips on the side of them being ready. So this world that we live in is being staged for death, destruction, you know. Let me get this before I jump into this video. This is 2nd Esdras 15. Starting at 14, it says, woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword in their destructions draweth nigh. And one people shall stand up to fight against another, the swords in their hands. So it says, woe to the world and them that dwell therein. Woe to you that's in the world. You follow the beliefs of this world. You run to Egypt. You run down to Egypt. You run to Pharaoh. You run to the so-called white man for everything. You have not repented. Talking to you Jakes out there, you so-called blacks and Native Americans, Hispanics, Latinos, Haitians, Jamaicans, right? And you speckled birds. You have not repented. You have not seeked your power, which is who the word even calls God and Jesus Christ, Allah, Yah, Yahshua, Yeshua, Yeshua, Yahweh. The names is Yahweh and Yahweh Shai. You have not seeked the true names. You have not repent. You have not put off the old man, old women, old children. The Lord is visiting this place with judgment. That's the only thing that's coming to Babylon is judgment. There's no healing in this place. It is done. You're living in a time of Babylon, which is America, downfall. That's what you're seeing. This is what you're hearing. And the closer we get to Yahweh Shai pulling up, the worse that you're going to see things get here in Babylon, because the Lord has saved this place for last. So, matter of fact, and let's get that, and then we'll jump into the video. This is let me get this right quick. This is Jeremiah 51 and 7. It says, Babylon have been a golden cup in the Lord's hand. And the Lord's there is all capital. So Babylon have been a golden cup in Yahweh's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine. Therefore, the nations are mad. And that's what we're saying now. The other nations are mad. They no longer want anything to do with America. Not even NATO. Not even NATO want anything to do with what Trump and the so-called Israelis are doing. The Lord is finished with America. You Americans are about to find out real soon the anger of the one who you ignorantly call God and Jesus Christ, man. The Lord is about to destroy this place and send nothing but judgments. That's the only thing that's coming to Babylon. That's the only thing that's coming to America is judgment. It's judgments, righteous judgment from Yahweh and Yahweh Shai. Verse 8, Jeremiah 51 and 8. It says, Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. House for her, take ball for her pain. If so be she may be healed. We would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her and let us go every one into his own country. For her judgment reaches unto heaven and is lifted up even to the skies. So the judgment, the foul, the lies, the wickedness, the death, the destruction, the innocent blood that Esau, which is the so-called white man, through his rulership have shed and build America and its culture through the backs of the Israelites, through you so-called blacks and Native Americans, Hispanics, Latinos, Jamaicans, and Haitians. Right? It's done. There's no saving this hole. There's no saving this harlot. There's no saving America. Only thing that's coming is death and destruction. So, hey, tighten up, sit back, stay watching, stay praying, stay repenting, and keep your head on a swivel. Because the so-called white man, you are watching live action and camera of Esau's judgment. He's vulnerable, and the Lord is throwing him out of power. We're going to get into this video. Lord willing, you will be edified.
The fact that the commercial traffic through the Strait of Hormuz has fallen by 95 to 97%. Commercial traffic on the pre-war scale will not resume anytime soon. An estimated 15 million barrels of oil a day have been taken offline. Shortages in Asia have already driven Singapore jet fuel to $231 per barrel. And while this war persists, insurance brokers will not underwrite shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. So let's just stop at that point and consider that it's not just petroleum products. It's broader than that. In other words, when it comes to growing food, feedstocks, fertilizer, these things are not available. And this is starting to have a profound impact around the globe. Even if the war stopped tomorrow morning, it would take at least, I suspect, 6 months to a year to try and recover from the damage that we've inflicted thus far. And what we're preparing to do now, and I think this is pretty clear from his statement, is to do again what we did before, only more so. In other words, the intensity and the numbers of missiles and bombs and so forth that are going to be hurled at Iran will be greater. And I guess there's the expectation that if you do this again with greater gusto, that somehow or another that's going to shut down Iran. I don't think it will. And to this we add ground forces. Now we're talking about roughly 20,000 light infantry from the Army and the Marines. There are all sorts of things they can do with those, but I'm not sure that that is going to produce a fundamental change in the strategic conditions that we've developed. So, yeah, I'm trying to figure out, all right, Mr. Secretary, you're telling us you're going to make things worse. You're going to bomb more intensively. And the assumption is that this will work. And where's the evidence that it will work? Well, look at the numbers of missiles and drones that are being launched. They're not being launched in the same volume as they were before. Well, I could say that our airstrikes are not being launched in the same volume as they were a few weeks ago. Does that mean we've lost? Does it mean that we're incapable? Of course not. And every time someone talks about, well, the Iranians are about through, they've run out of missiles and so forth, We see another wave of tactical ballistical or theater ballistic missile attacks or intermediate range ballistic missile attacks on the Saudi Peninsula, the Arabian Peninsula, the former Gulf Emirates, or we see that in Israel. The economic impact of this war is driving us into recession. And President Trump comes on every day or every other day and makes statements that he hopes will calm markets. He's trying to manipulate the marketplace to persuade people things aren't as bad as you think they are. This war isn't going to last as long as everyone says. Now, how much longer can he do this? Can he do it for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks? It all depends upon whether or not you think you're going to get a sudden collapse of Iran and a sudden willingness to surrender Iran to Israel, which is effectively what we're fighting for. Remember, this is a war, as Hegseth says, for Israel against Iran. So I don't see that happening. So that's the first part. The second business is, again, what's the economic impact globally? And most Americans don't know what it is. It's profound. It's back to fuel, food, feedstock, and fertilizer. We're looking at famines breaking out over the next 6 to 12 months because in Africa, South Asia, the Middle East, you can't grow food without fertilizer. Your green revolution is being effectively reversed. Then finally, the issue for most Americans, sadly, is if you only lose a few people on any given day, very few people pay attention. In other words, 10, 15, 20 people killed or wounded, that's unfortunate, but Americans aren't going to be sort of distracted from the television, from the game on Monday night, or from buying a six-pack at 7-Eleven. On the other hand, if we were to lose 400, 500, 600 men within the space of 24 hours, that would probably alert everybody that, my God, we're in a real war. And you see, the game in Washington is to convince everybody it's not a real war. It's only a war for the Iranians. And that's not true. It is a war that is regional and has the potential to go global. And I think that's part of why you're hearing from Donald Trump and others the possibility that in addition to the oil infrastructure and the power grid, we may also attack desalination plants. And of course, the problem with that is that Iran will respond. If you look at the desalination plants, I think somebody said there are roughly 50 of them, maybe a little bit more, across the Arabian Peninsula, reaching up into Kuwait. If you destroy those, you're going to ensure that millions of people die of thirst. Literally, that's what will happen. You've got a desalination plant outside of Riyadh that is enormous inside, and without it, the city of Riyadh, the capital city of Saudi Arabia, can't exist, which means that they are already planning on the very high probability that that plant will be destroyed, and they'll have to evacuate more than 1 million people, or they'll face dying of thirst, literally. So that's one problem. The other problem is you've got very few forces now. Some of those undoubtedly, I guess, are going to be used in the interior of Iran. That's the hope. Others will be used to seize points on the ground or islands in the Persian Gulf that we think are strategically vital to Iran. Well, there's a problem with these assumptions as well. First of all, most of the U.S. Navy in the Indian Ocean is 1,000 miles away from the Persian Gulf. And most of your troops are going to be on ships that have to come in closer to launch V-22s and helicopters carrying Marines into the Gulf area. How do you do that? How do you do it without being discovered? How do you do it without being identified and immediately targeted? Why is the Navy operating 500 to 1,000 miles away from the Persian Gulf? Well, they want to stay alive. They don't want to go under. So that's problem number one. Are you going to take the airborne troops and drop them in from above? In other words, are you going to conduct an airborne assault? You may remember that back in 1991, Schwarzkopf was besieged by the Marine Corps because they wanted him to launch the Marines on an assault against Kuwait City. Later on, the airborne mafia went to Schwarzkopf and said, let us seize Talil Airfield at Al-Nasiriyah, which you'll remember. And Schwarzkopf said no to both because he said there would be too many casualties. In fact, he told the Marines, you may lose more Marines in accidents trying to take the city from the sea than you will to enemy fire. It's ridiculous. We're not going to do that. He told the airborne crowd, no, I'm not going to do that. Forget it. You'll get a lot of people injured. What are you going to accomplish? Now, in this setting, you're talking about a far more competent and lethal enemy in Iran than what we faced in Iraq. And by lethal, I mean these people have weapon systems that allow them to reach out and touch you from hundreds of miles away.
So we have McGregor on economics, and this morning the ground truth is running exactly parallel to what he's describing. Gas prices in the United States crossed $4 a gallon today, the first time that threshold has been broken since 2022. And that's not only an energy sector problem. Once fuel moves, everything moves. Airlines, freight, food distribution. JetBlue already raised its checked bag fees to offset rising jet fuel costs. European gas prices have climbed more than 70% since the war began on February 28th. At the same time, the Pentagon held a press briefing earlier, its first in nearly 2 weeks. General Dan Kane confirmed that B-52 bombers are now flying over Iranian airspace. It's the first time the US has deployed the bombers in this war. Meanwhile, the Wall Street Journal reported today that Trump has privately signaled to aides that he may be open to ending the war without reopening the Strait of Hormuz, which means after a month of bombing and billions in ordnance, the United States might declare this finished with the strait still under Iranian control. Bloomberg shipping data shows that in March, the first full month of war, barely 6 vessels per day on average transited the Strait of Hormuz, compared to roughly 135 a day in normal times. McGregor's point about Lloyd's of London is the key one here. Iran didn't need to mine the strait or physically block it. The insurance market did the work. You cannot bomb your way back to coverage. Now, here's why this lands at home. The Gulf region produces nearly half the world's urea and roughly 30% of its ammonia. About 1/3 of global fertilizer passes through Hormuz. Urea prices have already risen 50% since the start of the war. That doesn't stay in commodity markets. It lands in feed costs, food prices, and grocery bills. And in parts of Africa and South Asia where farming depends on that fertilizer, McGregor isn't exaggerating when he says famine is a 6 to 12 month risk. Back to McGregor now, because his breakdown of the ground operation is the part Washington clearly hasn't worked through.
That is, in fact, what's happening. See, the problem, again, is this tendency to underestimate the Iranians. I think we've done that from the beginning. I think it's a serious mistake to do that now. I think that General Kane was brought out of retirement and promoted to 4 stars to do the job. He's going to do what he's told. And from his vantage point as an airman, he and the community of airmen in the Air Force, and probably to a lesser extent in the Navy, but nevertheless as airmen, see this as a brilliant opportunity to validate air power's ability to effectively, quote unquote, win wars. I mean, we've been down this road so many times we can't even begin to, count them all. So my view is that I think he's aware of that, but he's also going to go back to the things that we did during the Second World War and the things we did in Vietnam. We killed 2 million Vietnamese. How many of those were combatants? Did anyone care? I mean, as war goes on, the logic of violence takes over. And if you can't win one way, then you turn to another.
Turn hot boy summer into hot man summer with Old
Lucky
Spice
for the
Legacy
commercials.
antiperspirant spray.
I'm just trying to let it play, so it's in case if Akim will watch it and you want to do a lesson on it yourself.
We've got work to do.
It'll be like that, But Babylon is through, man. There's no hill in this place. It's done. And this is what we're watching. You're watching, Lord willing, us elect. We're watching the downfall of our enemies. Let's get that right quick, man. This is the book of Sirach, 25:7. It says, there be 9 things which I have judged in my heart to be happy, and the 10th I will utterly with my tongue. A man that hath joy of his children, and he that liveth to see the fall of his enemies. We are watching the fall of our enemies.
If we go forward with this,
we are watching the fall of our enemies. We're watching this man be stripped of his power, stripped of his narrative, stripped of his lies, stripped of his deceits. The Lord's got every receipt that the so-called white man has done, and he's reporting it to his face through his prophets, who he's given the secrets to. So this is why we understand through the words of Yahweh Shai, that guess what? The Lord's message is going out. It's went forward. And trust and believe, Esau knows that his time is at an end. He knows that his time is up. He knows that Yahweh and Yahweh Shai is getting ready to take him, his nation, his people, out of rulership. These other nations, they know as well. Don't get it twisted. They know as well. They know who the apple of the Lord's eye is. They know who the Lord's people are. It's just 2/3 of you Jakes, you so-called blacks, Native Americans, Hispanics, Latinos, Haitians, Jamaicans, you speckled birds, that don't know who your power is. And the phone had to chime in on that. And this is why the judgment is going to start here at the house of Israel, because the rebelliousness, because you are trying to, you're only deceiving yourself. The Lord is giving you all the receipts. The Lord is giving you all the signs that you are living in another man's kingdom. There's a saying that's out there that says a white man's heaven is a black man's hell. This is Psalm 75:7. But God is the judge. He put up down one and set up another. And this is what we're watching. We're watching the judge put down one defendant that it should have never been given to from the first place, and setting up another, first and foremost through Yahweh Shai. This is why Yahweh Shai is on the way back. This is why Yahweh Shai is going to return. Because as the scriptures say, when the wicked is in authority, the earth is mourning. And this is what you're seeing. The earth is mourning. Everything is dying. Everything has been weakened. Everything has been stripped of its nutrients, of its talent, of its strength. All through the rulership of the so-called white man. But when the righteous are in authority, everything will be ruled righteously. Everything will be set in its rightful place. Everything will be done correctly and righteous through the righteousness, starting with Yahweh Shai. As you see on the screen, most people have no idea how bad things is going to get. It's going to get really worse. Let's get that. We must enter in the kingdom. This is Acts 14 and 22 in the KJV, confirming the souls of the disciples. It says, and exhorting them to continue in the faith, and that we must through much tribulations enter into the kingdom of God. So we're going through that much tribulations, as this is what's coming upon the earth. This is what's getting ready to happen, man. We you hear us say it all the time, but let's just get it. Let's just get it. Jeremiah 30:7. At last, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it, and that he, right, is the hopeful elect. First and foremost, starting with you brethren, the men, then you sisters and your children, that rehearse the righteous acts, that are crying out, that's repenting, putting off the old man, old woman, you children, you're listening to your parents. Those are the ones that's crying out. Everything else outside of that, the Lord does not care about. This is why the judgment is going to be at an all-times high. Here in Babylon, this place has been a golden cup far too long. And now the Lord is throwing that cup away. The Lord is putting that cup in the damn trash where it always belonged. Babylon is through. There's no saving this whore. This is why the scriptures say, Micah 2:10, arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest. Because it is polluted, it shall destroy you, even with a sore destruction. This is why the Lord is saying, get your minds prepped on not staying here. Get ready to move as pilgrims upon the earth. Because what I'm doing to the so-called white man, disturbing his heaven, disturbing his peace, is going to cause him to be mad. It's going to cause him to come down with great wrath, because he sees that his lies and deceits, his time is ran out. He's lost the information war. He no longer can lie about the lies that he lied about. The Lord has revealed this so-called white man through his prophets. And the Lord has given the secrets of what the so-called white man has hidden to his prophets, to expose them, to bring it out, even among his own congregation, amongst his own seed line, for his seed line to point him out and call him out. America is through. You can tell the lie to yourself to think that this place is going to continue. It's already on its way out. You don't understand how bad it really is of everything that's going on. You don't really understand what's coming to Babylon the Great. I was going to read that, but I ain't going to read it. It's okay. Anyway, let's play a little bit more of this and we'll shut it down.
And to utterly eradicate oil infrastructure. Then the Iranians have the ability to target and destroy all of the desalination plants in the Persian Gulf region on the Arabian side. And the last time I looked, there were somewhere between 50 and 57 plants. This would mean that millions of people will die of thirst. That's what it means. And that's setting aside, the fact that we're doing enormous damage to the rest of the world in terms of its ability to grow food because of the fertilizer issue and other critical minerals and chemicals that we can't really live without. So, I think he was telling you, fine, we recognize that, and we'll do whatever we're supposed to do to win this war. This is a war for Israel against Iran. The Israelis regard this as a war for their existence. The Iranians regard this as a war for their existence. Since we are supporting Israel and doing effectively whatever Israel wants us to do in this war, we have taken on the Israeli mentality, targeting philosophy, and approach to war. And if you want to know what the Israeli approach to war is, you have to look at Gaza. Look at South Lebanon. In fact, I would say that the Israeli approach at this point is to create imitation Gazas all over the region, and that includes Iran. If Iran can be turned into a Gaza or subjected to Gazification, and that's the price of victory, that's acceptable to the Israelis. That's acceptable to their lobby in the United States and to the Zionist billionaires who are pressuring Trump to fight this war. Now, I would hope that we have somebody left in Washington with some degree of character and backbone to stand up and say, look, this is not an existential war for us. And to be blunt, we've already done more than we should have done. And if this is not enough, so be it. But we should cease fire, because the larger global implications are horrifying, as I tried to point out at the beginning. Well, this in every war that lasts for longer than a few weeks, you end up dehumanizing your opponent. we demonize the opponent in any case before we go in. And you can listen to President Trump reading from Netanyahu talking points about how terrible Iran is. And unfortunately, lots of people in the United States have ingested this garbage, and they repeat it ad nauseum. So I try to tell people, Iran has changed quite a bit in the last 47 years. It is by no means the same state or the same society that it was 47 years ago. But nobody wants to go there. Instead, you've thoroughly demonized the opponent. When you demonize the opponent, you end up dehumanizing, particularly when you go into action. When you lose soldiers, and you may or may not remember that we did lose Sergeant Muller, who was in a Bradley and had 5 or 6 other people wounded. But when he was killed, people emotionally, particularly in his troop, were furious. They were angry. And they became immediately interested in payback. In other words, we'll kill all of these people in front of us. And I had to deal with that, in February 26, with officers as well, who did not want to stop killing. They wanted to continue killing when it was perfectly obvious to me, since we couldn't move, we were restricted from moving, that we had no choice but to stop firing and allow whoever was still out there to live. But there were a lot of people who opposed that. And this is human nature. So that means that, first of all, wars should be kept short if you can do so. They should be fought for limited objectives, not unlimited purposes. Right now, we're in a war that should be limited by the objectives, but it's not. It's a war for the destruction of Iran on behalf of the Israeli state and its agents in the United States. That's what I can't answer. I don't think we can, but it may be that we have now found the magic sauce that will allow us to go back into Iran, systematically root out all the missile launchers. And
this is why we telling you, man. It's over. This phase is over. Now, I wanted to get something right quick. Let me see. Let's see if I can find it right quick. Just gotta find this right quick. Y'all just bear with me. No, brothers did a video on it that Israel said that they was not Israel said they ain't backing out. Even though Trump backed down, they ain't backing out, man. I don't think that I'm subscribed to that channel on this page, on this phone. But Israel, they're not backing down. And we understand that the scriptures say the least of the flock should lead them out. So we understand that, hey, hey, the ish people, they not backing down. They not seizing fire, man. And you see what they did today. Now let me play this right quick because I post this on my
ceasefire deal because I knew that shit was fake. The reason why I knew that shit was fake because Israel was not invited to the table. We did not start this war. Israel did. Donald Trump decided to be the face of the fucking problem because he's a reality TV show motherfucker. Did y'all forget that? He was with Flavor Flav. No, for real. And I knew.
y'all bear with me.
Violations were already going to take place when they were currently sending 100 fucking missiles in 10 minutes to Beirut, Lebanon. You might as well just operate everything and just resurrect from October 23rd, 1983, the memories of 200 fucking Marines being blown up to death. Because that was the way that Israel responded, as if they had Marines being blown up to death. Pakistan is already calling for violations of the ceasefire deal. I already knew that was going to happen. Because, once again, you can't just say a ceasefire deal took place after Donald Trump had said a ceasefire deal had taken place months ago. In fact, Donald Trump had claimed that there had been 8 ceasefire deals that he had conducted from 8 different wars, half of them that didn't end.
So you see, everything is out, man. The Lord is exposing this, man. Hey, the Lord's got everything out during this, going against the so-called white man. You know, he can't hide behind the lies that he's told for so long. Let me see if I can find that precept right quick. The Lord got the this man's attention, the so-called white man's attention. You know, and he's being exposed. You know, let me see if I can find it right quick. Y'all just bear with me. This is Luke 8:17. Here we go. For nothing is secret that shall not be made manifest, neither anything hid that shall not be known and come abroad. So everything that they've been hiding, the Lord is exposing them. Hey, listen, the Lord ain't even just using the prophets. The Lord is letting his own man tongue fall upon them. Now, what you're watching tonight, this is a colonel, a retired colonel, Douglas McGuire. He knows what he's talking about. He knows what's coming. He knows the true reality of what's about to happen here in America. Because they're telling you peace and safety. And like she said, you got to remember, this man was a reality star. This man was on movies. You got to understand, this man has been given a script to follow through the elites, the real elites, the 13 banking families. And he's pleasing them. All of them. They've been given scripts. So we understand how this is about to end. And this is why the Lord is telling you Jakes, to rise up and depart, repent, and come back. Call on the true names, which is Yahweh and Yahweh Shai. Because, Yahweh and Yahweh Shai is about to destroy this place. So, anyway, I pray this video has been edifying to the hopeful elect. Pray you got something out of it, man. As you see on the screen, most people have no idea how bad things is going to get. You really don't have no idea. It's going to get bad, man, before it gets better. It's your brother Ahmad from out of the GMS Lake City camp. Until then, Shalom.